Speakers registered on non-consent items other than public hearings and zoning cases will be taken following council announcements. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items within those blocks that they registered to speak on. Before you begin your comments, please state your name. Thank you.
Microphone, there we go. Good morning. Welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting. I'll call us to order. Turn it back over to Jeanette.
Today's invocation will be presented by Minister Patrick Philman from the Clergy and Police Alliance. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the pledges of allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come here today asking for your blessing on this city, that all these things would come together in your word, that you will love us unconditionally forever. We just thank you, Lord. We trust that you will bless our mayor and our city council, our chief of police, our fire chief, all those that put their lives forward each and every day. Father, that you would just hold your mighty hand over this city, that you would bless it, guide it, and protect it. In Jesus' precious name, amen. United States of America.
Next will be a special presentation, which is a presentation of proclamation for the University Little League State Championship title.
I think Councilwoman Beck is going to join the team at the podium. If y'all want to stand up, ladies and gentlemen, and join them. Councilwoman Beck, I know, is very excited to present this. This is one of our favorite things to do, is to recognize youth that are doing amazing things in our community. And it sounds like this team deserves to be celebrated.
Yes.
Elizabeth, over to you.
Yes, we have some state champs in the house, y'all. Come on, we don't bite, I promise. Okay, so this is for y'all. Whereas University Little League was established in 1959 to support youth across Fort Worth by providing young athletes the opportunity to build athletic skills, instill leadership, and sportsmanship. And whereas University Little League parents came together, volunteering countless hours each weekend to build their first home, Mason Field. And whereas University Little League has grown from a single field to 5, with more than 800 youth athletes participating. And this is for y'all. In 2023, the University Little League 11U team, led by Fernando Duran, Casey Robbins, and David Peterson, won 3 tournaments and brought home the 9/11 Little League Texas West State Championship. Now, therefore, the City of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and celebrate the University Little League 11U team. That's y'all. Congratulations. All right, do you want to hold it? I'm going to come down and get some pictures. If y'all want to come down. I don't know if you can come down and get some pictures.
Parents, you can take pictures.
There we go. I used to play for University Little League a long time ago. This is so cool. Please, come on. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah. Congratulations. I used to play for University of Little. Oh, really? Real little, so This is a blast from the past. It's awesome. Thank y'all for what y'all do.
Come here. Come right here. You receive. You got it.
Yeah. So the best mullet on the team gets to give the speech, so take it away.
Oh, Easton wants a word.
I just want to say thank you to all the parents and supporters in Fort Worth.
Next will be announcement of any items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda.
We have one item to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. That is M&C 23-0702, and that will be brought back at a later date.
Next will be items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
We have a couple here. The first one is ZC 23-066. That will be continued to September 19th because there's a companion M&C. Next is Resolution 23-0487. It will be withdrawn and replaced with Resolution 23-0487R.
Mayor, next will be speakers on the consent agenda item, and I believe we have a couple.
We do, and you handed me the list, and it's probably buried. I think I found it. Here we go. Our first speaker is Bob Willoughby, followed by Lisa McDaniel.
Let's put this on the screen. Okay, you can see that 230518, notice of claims for alleged damages or injuries. Of course, you don't see it up here, do you? See, that's one thing. You don't know what we're talking about, and that's on purpose. God knows we need a mayor that'll do right. Why must we? I've asked this question over and over for months. Now, I'm sorry. This city needs a mayor that will do things just because it's the right thing. You don't have to be told, just off of logic. You know, that's it. When you go to that.
Point of order, Bob, will you please address the mayor and council? Thank you. I'm so glad you're here, but please address us.
Okay, that'll make another point, see? They don't want you to see it up there, and they don't want us talking to you about it. Thank you, Jarrett. Let's make sure we make it clear that we want to keep them in the dark, because if they find out what you're doing, you may not stay long, okay? Now, this could be done on all the pages. When you go to this, you hit the button, you go over, you got a big blank page. It's not like that, it's just common sense. They can put a summary there, a little bit of what's going on, but no. That big blank page only has one thing, a little blue dot, so you can go download. Everything you gotta download. And that's not people friendly at all. Another thing is they don't put it there because it's gonna come back on the agenda in November, December. They won't tell us when. I'll have to keep watching to find out. To put our right back to speak at council, because at this meeting here,
Yeah,
We usually-
sustained, Bob. Anything on this consent agenda item? I think you were most concerned, it sounds like, with any alleged damages or injuries that were included in the M&C. If you'd like to speak about those, I'd love to hear about them.
I'm more concerned about you not answering the question when I asked about notices, claims, and damages. They didn't ever answer that question. So I'm going about the issue here of claims and damages in our agenda. This is what I'm talking about. It is on order. This is on our agenda. we've got to understand that when we ask something about these things, you should answer.
Yes, sir. Any
You don't answer.
specific questions about damages or injuries on this
Yes,
issue?
why don't you put it on the summaries on the next, when you go to that page.
So no questions
when you
about
go-
any of the
When you
particular
go to the page, you
settlements?
can't find out anything. There's no information on there, just names, no times, numbers, no one to call, to ask. You don't find anything. It's a
Point of order,
dead
Bob,
page.
you're off topic and you're showing a neighborhood association that
Bob.
does not exist.
Appreciate you.
You're out of order.
Our next speaker,
You're out of order.
is Lisa McDaniel, will be followed by Adrian Smith.
Good morning. My name is Lisa McDaniel. Good morning, Mayor Parker, and good morning, Gina Bivens and the City Council team.
Sorry, Lisa. Lisa, just second, Lisa.
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
start your time over.
Yes, ma'am.
A little Tuesday morning event for y'all, so sorry, Miss McDaniel. I know, me too. Can we shut that door by chance, Jack? Can you try that for me? Okay, thank you. What did Josh need? Okay, thank you. Lisa, your time starts over, so sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh, my God. Good morning. My name is Lisa McDaniel. Good morning, Mayor Parker and Gina Bivens and the City Council team. I want to thank each and every one for the opportunity, the great opportunity on today. My focus is to provide an early learning academy at 5224 Ramey, ages range 0 to 12 years of age. My goal is to focus on the whole child, the whole parent, and the whole community. And that would consist of early learning, literacy, different languages, early learning, social and emotional. We were targeting mental health on social and emotional. We have trained staff, cultural, library, parent resource center, toddler, pre-K, and after-school programs, which the after-school program would consist of at-risk programs. Transportations for parents and for our community. We will have extended hours, parents with long hours. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you being here. Our next speaker is Adrian Smith, and that's the last of our consent speakers.
Adrian Smith. I am one with the people. I believe my consent agenda items, for those who have documentation to follow along, MMC 230694, MMC 230698. Let me address those agenda items first. To the city staff, thank you for all that you do to make this bunch up here shine. It's your work that makes the city shine. It's not at their efforts or what they do. So as it relates to these particular agenda items, city staff, I would like someone to help me better understand what's going on with the language in these particular items. You know, to get better in wisdom and understand, if you don't know something, you ask, right? So anyone
Point of
with-
order, Mayor. Reading is fundamental. Everything you need to know is in the
Anyone-
agenda.
anyone
Click on a link. You should not address staff.
anyone with
You should not address
I'm
staff.
addressing council and the staff.
No,
Just focus
us.
on us,
So
Adrian.
again, anyone who will, like you all have done in the past, giving me a call to explain particular agenda items, I would appreciate it, city staff. Thank you.
Reading is fundamental. All you
So
got to do is
again,
read.
MMC 230696, I think it's an early lease termination as it relates to Property Damage Appraisals LLC, which have office space over in the future city hall. Now, they're ending their lease. This is not the first company to do this. This is like the second or third to do this. And I made a call. An individual was vague with me about the information she could relate to me as to why they're ending their lease. I know the city doesn't care because you all are going to benefit greatly from it. $1 million plus.
Mr. Smith, let me ask this question.
$1
This
million
was actually
plus.
discussed in,
Mayor,
Mr. Smith,
please,
I'm actually
this is my-
addressing you. You can
Stop
turn the
the timer.
microphone off.
You stop.
Adrian,
Yeah, please.
we actually addressed this during work session last Tuesday, and none of these questions came up. You were welcome to attend.
Mayor.
Your time's expired, Adrian.
No, my time hasn't expired. You
It hasn't.
interrupted
You're
me.
done.
I'm not done.
Yes, you are. Yes, sir. Nope, you can leave. Marshals, can you escort Mr. Smith out?
What have I done?
We're trying to conduct business, Adrian. This is not a this is not a sideshow. Thank you very much.
No,
That's the last of our consent agenda speakers, council.
I have not did anything wrong. I have not did anything wrong. I have not did anything wrong. Escort me out. Escort me out. Escort me out. Mayor, you wrong. I haven't did anything wrong.
Thank you, Adrian.
Reading is fundamental. Can't come here and dictate stuff to people.
Jeanette, I think we can consider the consent agenda, correct?
Yes. Next will be a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
And a second? Any other discussion? Ms. Bibbins? Motion and a second. Council, thank you, Michael. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be upcoming and recent events, recognition of.
I think Adrian needs more coffee, y'all. Okay, Carlos, the floor is yours. So sorry.
No problem, Mayor. And on a happier note, things going on in District 2. We had a Diamond Hill Back to School Resource Fair and Backpack Distribution event. That's a mouthful. That was held back in August 10th. We had our trustee, Roxanne Martinez from District 9, join in with the Police Department and also the Rose Marine Theater, ADLR, and other sponsors, including myself, to help get the kids what they need to get the school year started right. And on that same vein, next slide, please. A couple days later at Rose Marine Theater, they had their fourth annual back-to-school supply drive as well. I think over 300 supplies were given there. Appreciate all the support that we got from the sponsors and volunteers. Next slide, please. Earlier that morning, we had our monthly LULAC Chapter 102 Chorizo Menudo Community Forum. And we had guest speakers from the Police Department. Deputy Chief Pedro Criado was there with his North Command staff, as well as Dr. Jonathan Benjamin Alvarado from TCU, and Dr. Maria Yaneli Delgado, who is the Director of Hispanic Institutions at UTA. Next slide, please. All right, August 12th, Transform 1012 Main Street Project took another great step forward in redeveloping that old building and getting it started on a new life and a contributing life to the district and the city. It was a blessing ceremony, and we gathered several different faith-based leaders from walks of life to join us there and get it started off right and purge those bad spirits. Next slide, please. August 13th, joined fellow elected officials. I know Jeanette Martinez was there, as well as CM Blaylock. We joined in to learn about the lives of the gods, and it was a Mayan art exhibit there at the Kimball Art Museum. 100 rarely seen exhibits were there. So it's really, I think, a priceless opportunity to see it. If you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to do so. You can contact the Kimball or myself, since I'm on that committee, to help get you in front of these wonderful exhibits. Next slide, please. August 17th, Congressman Mark Veazey hosted a stakeholder roundtable discussion, Department of Agriculture, and he brought along Agriculture Deputy Secretary Jochil Torres Small. So we had a cozy coffee conversation there, and we covered various topics concerning the 2023 Farm Bill. We were also joined in by the Office of Jeanette Martinez, as well as Jared Williams and Chris Nettles, who joined in as well in that discussion. Next slide, please. August 17th, Fort Worth Police Department held its Outstanding Acts Award ceremony, which honored members of the Fort Worth PD and our community for their service above and beyond what they do. So it was a very noteworthy event, joined in there by fellow council members as well. So thank you, Fort Worth PD, for what you do every day. Next slide, please. August 19th, Charlie Losendorf and I were at TCC Northeast Campus, and we were there to support and celebrate the 2023 graduating class Campfire Early Education Apprenticeship Program. So another pathway to success, not your typical career through college, but there's several ways to make an impact in your life and establish your career. So congratulations to the Campfire graduates. Next slide, please. Almost done. We have Fort Worth Aviation Museum celebrating National Aviation Day and Orville Wright's birthday. For those that, know something about history, one of the brothers that made the Wright Flyer fly. So all proceeds go to supporting that wonderful museum. So it's wonderful that we did get a good turnout despite the heat. And just a couple of announcements tonight. David, you will know this because we will be there. We're having our first District 2 budget talk there at the EMS ISD Administration Building at 1600 Mustang Rock. And so that gets started at 6 p.m. Hope to see you there. One other announcement, save the date, Coffee with a Cop, Saturday, September 23rd at Revive Coffee at 2503 Roosevelt Avenue. And that is it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Bivens.
Thank you, Mayor, and I can attest you are not evil. You are a wonderful leader.
Thanks.
And we all love you. Thank you, thank you. Yes, we do. I'm going to tell you something that happened, but don't think this was the title of it. This is my title. The criticality of quality childcare was taken on by the Fort Worth Report. The Fort Worth Report is a nonprofit online newspaper, and they sponsored a panel discussion on childcare. And I want to thank District Director Josh Rivers for going to represent me as I was ill. Josh, wave your hand over there. So that was fun. And you see Lisa McDaniel, who was here this morning, and Kara Waddell, who is over Child Care and Associates. They had all the heavy hitters there. And for those of you who understand how important child care is, you'll see why I featured that. I hate I couldn't make it. Next slide, please. A few weeks ago, I recognized a group. I called them Stop 6 Leaders or Pioneers. And they really were pioneers because over a 10-year period, not even 300 homes were built in Stop 6. The community basically imploded upon itself. Well, we changed the zoning, and people like Vietnam veteran you see in the first picture, his name is Lester Jones. He had sat on property for 40 years and decided to build, and he started a building boom in his area. The next man you see is Mauro Salas. Mauro was the first one to build after the zoning change. His house is like 5,100 square feet, and he's building a compound for his entire family. The lady who you see in the green dress is a police officer without her gun. We called her a pioneer as well because she became an East Side police commander who's now been promoted to the position of deputy chief. These are just some Stop 6 leaders who were not here to get their recognitions that evening, and I just wanted to salute them as well. Mayor, that's all.
Thank you, Gina. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. The first thing I wanted to highlight for today is our team hosted another District 6 Litter Day, and it was hosted at the Chisholm Trail Ranch Community Center, and we had an awesome time cleaning up all of McPherson from Summer Creek to Brewer Road, and the weather was actually favorable for once, so we weren't sweating out there in blistering heat. But I was just so amazed at the turnout. So many families came, and especially so many of our young littles to build community and also clean our community. And it was just so amazing to see that. I wanted to recognize that with all of their work, they were able to collect 11,675 pounds of litter, which is a whole lot. And I thank God for code compliance and all the big vehicles. It would have been absolutely awful to carry all those bags back from Brewer Road to Chisholm Trail Community Center. But thank you all for that. I also want to recognize my staff, Davia, as well as Carmen and Jenny. Thank y'all so much for all the hard work that y'all did organizing this event. It's events like these that really go a long ways for our district. Next slide, please. I also wanted to highlight an amazing event that happened in the historic Lake Como community. Several folks came together in Como to organize the annual Back to School Fair. And it was just an amazing event. Not only were supplies provided for kiddos, but also there were so many engaging activities, seminars, especially for our youth as it relates to conflict resolution, leadership, et cetera. And so I would just wanted to give a special shout out to Como Lion's Heart, Legacy, the Lake Como NAC, as well as all the community partners such as JPS, the 1 Second Collaborative, and so many organizations. I can't forget Fort Worth's Favorite Frat as well. And Josh, thank you for your help as well. The Beta Tau Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi for Fraternity Incorporated did a whole bunch of volunteering, and you can see they were really involved in mentoring, dancing with the kids, and I had to cut a step myself. So thank you all for the amazing work that y'all continue to do in the community.
Where's the
Tomo.
video, Jared?
I think they reviewed the video before. They were like, no, let's not put that up. Great question. Next slide, please. My last recognition for the day, it was such a blast to hang out with my neighbors in the Hewlin Heights neighborhood. We got the chance to talk about so many important things to the neighborhood, as well as they made like the world's greatest chocolate chip cookies and milk, and I was suffering from a stomach issue, so I couldn't partake, but I took them to go, and it was absolutely incredible. Neighborhood meetings like this really make my heart warm, because it's an opportunity for us really to connect with residents and put eyes to the issues that are really impacting their neighbors specifically, and then to go back to work on those with the neighborhood. So to all the folks from Hewlin Heights who may or may not be watching, or if you're watching this later, thank you, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Jared. Councilmember Hill?
Good morning. This is a picture of my district director, Sammy Roop, and I. On August the 9th, that morning, we had the opportunity to tour the Parker Hannafin Aerospace manufacturing facility, which is in District 7. It was built in the 1950s, and they are currently undergoing plans to renovate the building. And I'm thrilled that all 350 employees are going to stay in District 7, which is a huge deal. But it was a wonderful tour. I didn't realize all the things that they've built and all the different industries they actually touch outside of aerospace. But that's it.
Councilmember Nettles?
On Saturday, I had an opportunity to go and celebrate with Mr. Larry Kemp and the, I just lost my train of thought, the janitorial service for 50 years. He'd been operating in the city of Fort Worth, so we really appreciate his work. Next slide. We have our physical budget talk in September the 7th at the McDonald's YMCA, so please come out and state your concerns in District 8. Next slide, Oak Grove Community Park Public Meeting is going to be Thursday, 6:30, September the 14th. So we're looking forward to enhancing the Oak Grove Park. And so come out and please be a part of that discussion. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Beck?
I had the opportunity to join the fellow women on council at the Women's Policy Forum. It was a really great event, and I enjoyed the opportunity to sit up there with all of the women and that I serve with. Next slide. All right, 817, the library, Fort Worth Library, and their Amplify 817 partnered with Dickies and Visit Fort Worth's Here Fort Worth for the second annual 817 Amplify Fort Worth Festival, highlighting our local musicians. Next slide. All right, we had an ice cream social this weekend. It was great. For those that completed our Pride Activity Badge, and certainly could use a little cool off with the 110-degree heat. Next slide. Tuesday, September 5th, 6 p.m. at the Southwest Community Center, we'll be having the District 9 budget meeting. I'm going to get it right today, I promise. So I hope you'll join us. Next slide. Okay, I see he's in the audience today, and he just blushed. But one of our members of our city attorney's office, Nico Arias, I had the opportunity to photobomb his wedding photos. And so thank you for letting me join, and thank you for being so proud of the community that you live in, that you chose to have those photos taken in the near South Side. I think it shows really the type of environment that we create here in the city of Fort Worth. So everybody give Nico a big round of applause.
No, happy birthday, Elizabeth Beck. This is her birthday. Yeah, Elizabeth.
All I want for my birthday, all I want is for Macy to eat a beef and cheddar from Arby's. That's all I want.
It's coming.
Point of privilege. Can we sing a happy birthday to
Yes, we
Elizabeth?
should.
I
Yes,
mean,
okay.
why not?
Yeah, okay. Go for it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Meg. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Blaylock, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor. So this year I was honored to meet new friends from our Fort Worth Sister Cities International, Nagaoka, Japan. We introduced ourselves, shared stories, and bragged on each of our cities. And I was very grateful to participate in a ceremonious gift exchange. I was presented a glass etching from a local artist from Nagaoka. And here's a group picture also of both delegates and hosts. It was a delightful time, and I look forward to experiencing Nagaoka this fall. Next slide. So we have our first District 10 budget meeting. It's this Thursday, August 24th at Heritage Church of Christ at 6 p.m. Next slide. We have our second budget meeting in the north of District 10, Thursday, August 31st at the Northwest ISD building. Both of these meetings are so important. It gives opportunity for our constituents to come and voice their concerns and their thoughts about the budget and to hear and understand where the city's coming from and what they present. Next slide. And then lastly, the first ever District 10 Town Hall meeting will be on September 28th at 6 p.m. at Texas Motor Speedway. Have a great lineup of speakers and look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.
And Councilmember Martinez.
Okay, so on, yeah, I was supposed to put the Women's Policy Forum up there, but so we'll go into the first picture. So on August 10th, I was able to attend the Carter Riverside Neighborhood Association meeting. It was a great meeting. Is that the first slide?
The only slide she said.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay, well then I gotta go off of that. So that first picture is from, on August 14th, the Hanley Neighborhood Association meeting. It was great to get in front of that group for the first time and hear concerns and how we can help and report out on updates that we have for District 11 on the side of Hanley where District 11 starts. And then I was able to attend the Hispanic Chambers Build Fort Worth event. They had a really great event where they invited a bunch of vendors and they got to hear about each other and see how they can all work together to better Fort Worth. On August 17th, I was able to attend the Bonnie Bray Neighborhood Association meeting. It was their first neighborhood association meeting since COVID, so it was really great. And I was glad to see that they invited a potential developer that was presenting a zoning case, and I think that's great that they come out and introduce themselves and talk about the project and just be good potential neighbors, right? And Councilmember Flores was also with me at the Police Department Outstanding Act Award ceremony, a really great ceremony. So I was glad to be there. There were other updates, but there's no pictures. So there is going to be a District 11 budget meeting on August 26th. That's this Saturday at Victory Forest Community Center in Southside at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Jeanette. I believe that's the last of our council announcements.
Next, Mayor, will be speakers on the non-consent agendas, and I believe we have one.
Bob Willoughby. Bob, I think, is in timeout. Okay. We can move on, Jeanette.
Next will be changes in memberships on boards and commissions, with the first being from District 4.
Councilmember Larsdorf, you're up.
All right, Mayor and council members, I request your consideration to appoint William Bergen to the Community Development Council to a partial term effective August 22nd, 2023, and ending October 1st, 2024. His application and resume is attached if needed, and the copy will be maintained by City Secretary's office.
Thank you. I think we're moving on to Councilmember Hill for District 7. Oh, we need to vote, don't we? Just kidding. Motion and a second. Please vote. Is it not working? working. Try it again, Jared. There we go. Motion carries.
Next will be appointments from District 7.
Mayor and council, I request the consideration to appoint the following individual to the board listed below. Oh, I shouldn't read the entire thing, should I? Request your consideration to appoint Whit Woolman for his first term of Board of Adjustment for residential. His resume and application is at the city's office.
Thank you. A motion, council? Well, I guess Macy, make your motion.
I'm sorry, I move to approve.
Motion and a second from Councilmember Bivens. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be appointments from District 10.
Councilmember Blaylock.
So I request for your consideration to appoint the following individual to the below-listed board with a partial term effective August 22nd, 2023, and ending October 1, 2024. And it's Aston Howell to Haswell to the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Commission. The resume is on file at the city secretary's office if needed, and I motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be appointments from District 11.
Councilman Martinez.
Mayor and council, I request your consideration to appoint the following individuals to their respective boards with terms effective August 22nd, 2023, and ending October 1st, 2025. Lori Kindler, Building Standards Commission; Andres Acuna, Aviation Advisory Board; Greg Hughes, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board; Rick Herring, Historic and Cultural Landmarks Commission; Melody Dodd Munoz, Board of Adjustment Residential; Kathy Romero, Zoning Commission of Fort Worth Alliance Airport Zoning Commission; and Virginia Murillo, Board of Adjustment Commercial and Alliance Airport Board of Adjustment. The respective applications are attached in resumes. If provided, the original copies will be maintained in the city secretary's office, and I move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be Resolution 230487R.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be 230514.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Councilmember Crane, did you want to say anything on this one? No? Okay. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be item 230515.
Entertain a motion, council. Thank you. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be 230516.
I'm just verifying. We don't have that was a speaker, Mr. Willoughby, correct? That's listed here electronically, Jeanette, on non-consent. That's why there says one.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Thank you. Council, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Alan.
So I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the resolution is simply stating that the tax rate is proposed by the city manager and setting a formal hearing for September 19th, Tuesday, at council. This does not preclude, and there is no, this does not preclude the opportunity to continue discussing the tax rate and the budget, and there's ample opportunity for those discussions at our public meetings and work sessions coming up. And I personally will continue to look for ways to lower taxes. Thank you.
Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next is 230517.
Entertain a motion, council.
To approve.
Got a motion and a second by Councilmember Beck. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be MNC 230677 with report by city staff Lacey Ruiz.
Good morning, Lacey.
Good morning, Mayor Parker and City Council. My name is Lacey Ruiz, and I serve as the PID Administrator for the City of Fort Worth in the Economic Development Department. In preparation for this morning's public hearing and our benefit hearings in September, city staff provided the PID manager with estimated revenue figures based on preliminary property assessment information provided by the Tarrant Appraisal District. City staff and the PID manager finalized recommended budget, and this information was shared with the TPID Advisory Board and property owners throughout the months of July and August. Notification of today's public hearing and the subsequent one to be held on September 12th were mailed to all property owners liable for assessment within the tourism PID and published in the Star Telegram on August 10th, 2023. The notice included information on the proposed budget and service plan, staff contact information to answer any questions, and the time and place of today's public hearing and the public hearing on September 12th to provide opportunities to address the City Council with any issues or concerns they may have. The purpose of the public hearing for MNC 23-0677 is to receive comments regarding the tourism PID's proposed plan of service and budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, along with the proposed assessment. Following receipt of any public comments, staff recommendations that the City Council close today's public hearing, approve filing of the proposed assessment roll on file with the City Secretary for public inspection, and set September 12th, 2023 as the date for the final benefit hearing to consider and approve PID 18 Tourism, Plan of Service, Budget, and Assessment Rate. The proposed assessment rate for PID 18 Tourism is 2% of the consideration received from occupancy of any sleeping room furnished by hotels within the PID. The estimated revenue for the tourism PID is $7 million for fiscal year 2024. A representative from the management company is here along with myself to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Lacey. Any questions for Lacey? If not, I can entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing and approve MNC 23-0677, which approves the filing of the proposed 2023 assessment roll and sets the final public benefit hearing for September 12th, 2023.
Got a motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries. Thank you. I know Lacey's probably going to hang close.
Stand right here.
Okay.
Next will be the MNCs regarding PIDs 1, 6, 7, 11, 12, 14, 15, 19, 20, and 21. They will all be heard at once with report by Lacey Ruiz.
Hi, Lacey.
Hello again. So again, in preparation for this morning's meeting, public hearing, our benefit hearings in September, the city staff provided each PID manager an estimated revenue figures based on preliminary property assessment information provided by the Tarrant Appraisal District. City staff and the PID managers finalized recommended budgets, and this information was shared with PID advisory boards and property owners throughout the months of July and August. Notification of today's public hearing and subsequent one to be held on September 12th were mailed to all property owners liable for assessment within the operating PIDs and published in the Star Telegram on August 10th, 2023. The notice included information on the proposed budget and service plan, staff contact information to answer any questions, and the time and place of today's public hearing and the public hearings on September 12th to provide opportunities to address the City Council and any issues or concerns they may have. I'm also providing a quick update regarding the property owner notices for PID 7 Heritage. Initially, the assessment fee stated was 15 cents per $100 of property value for residential properties. However, the Star Telegram notice reflects the amended proposal rate of 14.5 cents per $100 of property value. The purpose of the public hearings for MNCs 23-0678 through 23-0684 and 23-0686 through 23-0688 are to receive comments regarding each of the PID's proposed plans of services and budgets for fiscal year 2023-2024, along with the proposed assessment for each PID. Following receipt of any public comment, staff recommends that the City Council close today's public hearing, approve the filing proposed assessment rolls for the City Secretary for public inspection, and set September 12, 2023 as the date for final benefit hearings to consider and approve the PID's plan of services, budgets, and assessment rates. The proposed assessment rate for PID 1 downtown is 13 cents per $100 of property value. The rate is unchanged from last year. Total revenue estimated for this levy is $2,970,608. The proposed assessment rate for PID 6 Park Glen is 15.5 cents per $100 of property value for residential properties and 3.5 cents per $100 of property value for commercial properties. This rate is unchanged from last year. The total revenue estimated for this levy is $2,185,323. The proposed assessment rate for PID 7 Heritage is 14.5 cents per $100 of property value for residential properties and 11 cents per $100 of property value for commercial properties. The residential rate is half a cent lower than it was last year. Total revenue estimated for this levy is $2,020,700. The proposed assessment rate for PID 11 Stockyards is 12 cents per $100 of property value. This rate is unchanged from last year. The total revenue estimated from this levy is $458,777. The proposed rate for PID 12 Chapel Hill is 18 cents per $100 of property value. This rate is unchanged from last year. Total revenue estimated for this levy is $373,983. The proposed assessment rate for PID 14 Trinity Bluff is 10 cents per $100 of property value. This rate is unchanged from last year. The total revenue estimated for this levy is $102,766. The proposed assessment rate for PID 15 Sun Valley is 24 cents per $100 of property value. This rate is unchanged from last year. The total revenue estimated from this levy is $155,417. The proposed assessment rate for PID 19 Historic Camp Bowie is 10 cents per $100 of property value. This rate is unchanged from last year. Total revenue estimated for this levy is $497,673. The proposed assessment rate for PID 20 East Lancaster PID is 26 3/5 cents per $100 of property value. This rate is unchanged from last year. Total revenue estimated for this levy is $333,704. The proposed assessment rate for PID 21 Las Vegas Trail PID is 10 cents per $100 of property value. The total revenue estimated for this levy is $414,168. Representatives from each of the management companies and myself are here to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Lacey. Any questions, council? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm about to make a lot of people
Okay.
happy because we're skipping through 3 pages of the agenda today. So M&Cs 23-06, I move to close the public hearing and approve M&Cs numbers 23-0678 through 23-0684 and 23-0686 through 23-0688, which approve the filing of the proposed 2023 assessment rolls and set the final public benefit hearing for September 12, 2023.
Second, please vote, council. Motion carries. Thanks for all your hard work.
Next will be first, Mayor, on ZC 23066. I just want to clarify that that item will be continued to September 12th, not the 19th. The 19th is a public comment meeting.
Thank you.
Next will be ZC-23-101.
And I believe we have one speaker on this item. If there's opposition, which I don't believe there is any, but I'll turn to Councilmember Larsdorf.
So this one is I'm actually pretty excited about because this one I think fills a need that we talk about here in Fort Worth a lot, which is housing that is affordable. Not every family needs a 2,000-3,000 square foot house with a huge yard, and these cottage homes that we're starting to see more and more of, it fills that need with smaller homes that some of these folks can get into. So the area it's going to go into is going to fit well. The neighborhood nearby Chisholm Ridge, they were also in favor of it. I think the developer's done a great job of talking to them throughout the entire process, making sure that they were in the loop on everything, and even helping them out with some flock cameras and addressing some of the very few concerns they actually did have. So it's going to be great for the community. I think it's going to be great for Fort Worth. So this one, I'm excited to make a motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be ZC-23-121.
Councilmember Beck, we have a few speakers on this item. Our first speaker is Bailey Brewer, followed by Darren Norman.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. My name's Taylor Hale. Can I speak first as part of us three speaking for our presentation?
I'd just go in order. It'd be helpful if you don't mind. So sorry.
No problem, thank you.
We're quick studies, I promise.
We got a presentation, I guess, that we.
Sure.
Thank you
Pulling it
very
up.
much.
Thank you.
Before we jump into the zoning components of this case, I would like to first kind of give you a little bit of background about who we are initially here out of the gate. So Brewer and Hale, founding partners are Bailey Brewer and Taylor Hale, that's myself. We are brothers, thus a family-owned business. We were both born and raised here in Fort Worth. Our parents still live in Mistletoe Heights, went to public school here in Fort Worth. And we both reside currently in Fort Worth here together. Our passion for what we're doing and what we're trying to contribute to the community is we look for infill properties that maybe other syndicated developers would not take down. And we're trying to create legacy family product in our approach. Some of the neighborhoods that we've been focusing on include the Samuels area, Rock Island, near Southside, and Mistletoe Heights. We are not merchant developers looking for a quick return. We are building long-term for long hold with our funds, and thus we think we deliver creative and unique properties as a result. So just some overview of the property and the project that we're speaking of today. This is a 4-story product that is 27 total units. It is site parked. It's behind the front units on the ground floor, so it's not visible from Samuels Avenue. And part of some of the enhancements that we've put on the project for the exterior include a entry overhead cooling door that secures the property, enhanced architectural and niche-ha panels on the outside with brick. We do have indoor patios on all of the elevated units, walk-up patios on the ground floor. And you can see in the lower picture there kind of an amenity deck on the back side of the property that looks over to the Trinity with a fireplace and a sitting area for the tenants. Again, on the same theme and commonality there is we don't have run-of-the-mill finishes as well. And so here's kind of a rendering of some of the expectations for the interior of the property, which include elevated ceilings, solid core doors throughout, hard surfaces, no carpet, backsplash tile in the bathrooms, tile all the way up to the ceilings, tile shower pans, decorative lighting, plumbing fixtures, and hardware as well. Wanted to represent kind of a massing model of our project. So this is a street view looking down on Samuels. And you can see our project sitting in between the two adjacent properties on the left-hand picture. And we think it feels very appropriate as it kind of creates a linear step in the overall height between the two projects. Again, thank you for your time this morning. I just wanted to close my part of speaking about this is our backyard. We're from Fort Worth. We live here. Our kids go to school here. Our reputation matters, and we plan to
Thank you, Mr.
continue to
Hill.
invest here in
Thank
Fort
you.
Worth.
Bailey Brewer.
Make sure I can operate this slide. Yes, I'm Bailey Brewer. I appreciate you guys affording me the opportunity to speak with you today. I want to point out in 2003, the city made a decision to zone all the property around 521 Samuels to urban design PD zoning, including the land that Villa de Leon was built on, based on the appropriateness of building urban development at this location. In 2007, Villa de Leon was issued a building permit. In 2016, the entire area known as Rock Island Samuels neighborhood was put under the Downtown Urban Design District jurisdiction. You can see right here in current zoning, we truly are the donut hole in the donut. Everybody around us has the H zoning that we're requesting. All comparable property in the area has PD based on age. Our project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which indicates that all of this area, including downtown, to be mixed use. It does not indicate the property to be D high-density residential. The reason being to ensure denser urban forms with setbacks comparable to those of downtown. 4 full-time city staff work exclusively on the comprehensive plan in coordination with every other city department. Over 35 local cooperating agencies provide input and support for the essential planning document. Consider the work hours and the professional input that the comprehensive plan indicates. Over the last 20 years, all construction along Samuels has been done in PDs based on H. Not one has been done under D zoning. You can see from the Downtown Urban Design District overlay that it is the city's intention for all of this area to be redeveloped to urban design/living, not D zoning. The city's in the works of putting together this new H2 zoning or HP zoning that allows for consistency without the need for a PD for each case. Savan Steiner and Councilwoman Beck have worked closely on putting this together to prevent all these PDs from being such a consistent process. We started the rezoning process in the second half of 2021. In November of 2021, the City Council approved 7-0 our request to rezone. A building permit for our 4-story multifamily building was approved and issued in September of 2022, 11 months ago. We are not asking for variances or exceptions to our favor. We are asking to be treated the same as all of our neighbors. The city made the right decision to approve the area for urban design development in 2003. It's even more applicable today than it was in 2003.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Darren Norman.
Good morning, Darren Norman, 3108 West 6th Street. This is the first time I've come arguing a zoning case with an actual issued building permit in hand. So we're here today because Brewer and Hale have been sued by a homeowners association for a technicality in the legal notification system on behalf of the city. If you approve of our case today, that technicality will be resolved. We continue to constructively participate in the solution to this perceived technicality and want to continue to do so moving forward, being good neighbors. It's been brought to our attention that parking is a major concern for the HOA. Wanted to point out this site plan, which was provided to the Neighborhood Association or to the HOA in 2021, which indicates 20 on-site parking spaces, 3 on-street parking spaces, and 17 off-street parking spaces in an exhibit that I'll show you later on. With these, we work closely with Councilwoman Beck to provide additional auxiliary parking at the request to solve this parking issue. We've also agreed to take on managed parking tags as part of the lease for the tenants. In the end, we'll provide 40 spaces for 30 bedrooms. That's a parking ratio of 1.3 parking spaces per bedroom. If the property remains zoned D, it would be overparked and illegally overparked by the city ordinance, which places the maximum parking at 125% of the minimum parking. So that's 40 spaces for 30 bedrooms. H, mind you, require you all these PDs and H's don't require any parking by design for urban planning. Oh, how do I go back to the previous? There it is. I want you to also note that on Samuels Avenue, all on-street parking in this area is protected and out of the traveled way. It does not impede the traffic flow for travel lanes in any way. These are all on-street protected parkings that are outside of the traveled way. So here's the map of the parking location. It's about 1,000 feet away, about a 4-minute walk. This may be 2 city blocks. Guest and resident parking for these spaces will be managed as part of the building lease agreement. So at issue, most likely here is an aspect of a view and the impact the building has adjacent to another building, an urban environment. We've got 12 windows impacted on the north side of this building. That's 12 windows out of 318 size-adjusted window openings. That's about 3.7% of the existing fenestration that will be blocked. Those 12 windows are the only ones that are affected by this. It's a 4-story building. That's what we have a building permit for. Those windows on the lower floor are already self-imposed blocked by the fence that De Leon has around their property.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Our next speaker is David Balunda, followed by Tom Rutledge.
Mayor and City Council members, we're here today to protest this project. And as you can see on this parking map, every project that's been built since 2008 till present, including the project that's being finished less than 700 feet from this new project by the Brewer and Hale Group, averages, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, there's 1,931 units in about a 12-block stretch of Samuels. There's 2,725 parking spaces per those apartments. They average about 1.61 spaces per unit. And at that time, they were unit versus bedroom. Now, Samuels apartments are required to do 31 parking spaces per bedrooms, and they are at 0.74 spaces per unit. And just to make clear that ever since all these apartments been built, they're all meeting standard D zoning, even though they're H, they're meeting the more than required parking spaces per unit. In closing, Samuels Avenue is a very historic street. Pioneer Cemetery is on there, and people have no parking there to go visit, pay respect, or even visit the cemetery. Samuels Avenue was one of the first streets in Fort Worth that was designated as a street. No one will benefit from the building of this project with less parking. And your vote today will approximately affect 300 children at Nash Elementary School and thousands of people who live on Samuels Avenue today and for years to come due to not having enough parking for this project. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Our next speaker is Tom Rutledge, followed by Van Shaw.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Tom Rutledge with TMP 5237 North Riverside Drive, Fort Worth, Texas. Billy De Leon hired me when this process began to help them understand the zoning process, which I have found has been complicated, as everyone knows. At the Zoning Commission hearing, we handed out a petition of 90 signatures of the local residents opposing this. So I stand before you today not only representing Billy De Leon, but 90 residents along Samuels Avenue, and that's significant in our view.
Mr. Rutledge, let me ask a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt your time. Was the petition specific to the parking issues or anything else with the project?
It did. It stated that in there.
Okay.
And I didn't bring it because I thought
That's okay. I can get it later. I just needed that for my reference.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We'll give you a few extra seconds there. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You're good. Thank you. The thing is that what's been stated about this H zoning is no doubt correct in the sense that Billy De Leon was the first one to do that under the H zoning. Here's the thing. They follow most of the guidelines in the D in that their setbacks are a minimum of 3 feet off the property line against the applicant's property. and they provided more than the parking required under the D zoning. But I want to read a couple of things to draw the contrast for the council and the audience here today, that the purpose and intent of H zoning is this. It is a central district to provide a specific central business district for zone for more intense use of all commercial uses permitted in previous commercial districts. It is correct. There is no requirements for parking or setback. Multifamily is allowed under H zoning, which you could see that if somebody had H zoning, they wanted to do multifamily, that you just go in and follow those guidelines. But the intent is not that you go in and build a facility that represents downtown Fort Worth. This is a neighborhood, is a residential neighborhood. The other thing that I want to read to you is what's in the D zoning, which I assume is still the sentiment of this council. It is the purpose of high-density multifamily district to provide a specific zone for high-density multifamily development and adopting multifamily design development regulations. And here's the catch. It is the intent of the City Council to encourage the most appropriate uses of land. And then it goes on to talk about higher quality design and landscaping, and also talks about to provide the development with adequate zoning. The other thing I want to point out is that in the city zoning regulations, there is a stipulation about off-site parking. And it does require that if you're going to have off-site parking, in section 6.2.0, off-site auxiliary parking, if sufficient parking is not available on the premises, a private parking lot may provide it within 500 feet. That's the ordinance. They're not doing that.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Our next speaker is Van Shaw, followed by David Welch.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. There's more than 500 people against this rezone, including the PTA and staff at Charles Nash Elementary and immediate neighbor. There's 3 people in favor. It would be irresponsible for you to vote on this without a traffic study and a view of the site in its current condition. The site is super narrow. It's a 2-lane, very tight road with 237 students at Charles Nash Elementary, including the staff, including the support. They're well over 500 cars a day just for that elementary alone. Why did this not pass P&Z? The answer is the rezone is not safe and it's not prudent. Once you see the site in its present condition, it will be objectively clear to you that the site is risky for the children and the occupants of that street. Not to mention the 237 kids that are going to go to that school for decades to come. There's no upside in voting in favor of a rezone. In fact, the risk of harm, ultimately, somebody is going to get hurt on that street. And allowing a rezone is going to contribute to that significantly. Please vote in denial. Thank you.
Our next speaker is David Welch, followed by Frank Starr.
Good morning. First of all, I apologize if this isn't necessarily proper, but I do have to say happy birthday to a fellow classmate of mine. So I did a little research on this. I'm another lawyer for the Villa de Leon. And since 2015, when me and Councilwoman Beck graduated from A&M, the average parking per household was 1.8 vehicles. That's trended upwards. Now the average vehicle per household is over 2. Them not allowing 1 vehicle per unit under the zoning is just not adequate enough. I've gone down there as a visitor. I don't live in Samuel's area, but I've gone down there to visit and meet with my clients. I can't find parking as is. So you make it worse, it's only going to get worse. The only solution that I can see from the research that I've conducted is keep it at D, require it per unit. They can build it. We can put a man on the moon. They can build a residential unit that holds parking, and that's the only adequate adequate solution. So that's all I've got to say. Thank y'all, and I appreciate you giving me some time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank Starr, followed by Steve Marquardt.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Frank Starr. I am a homeowner at VDL. And the developer purchased this in '21. There's numerous properties that have been developed along there. We've never objected to any of them. And the reason for that is this one doesn't have adequate parking. They've come up with a solution to try and say that parking 0.2 of a mile away is going to be resolve the problem. At 110-degree temperatures, when it's pouring rain, when it's freezing, I just don't see that as a proper solution. They made mention to the fact that this was approved prior. The reason it was approved is because there was never proper notice given, and so we weren't able to voice our opinion on the project. And we would have dealt with this 2 years ago had we been notified properly. Once again, the offset parking just doesn't seem to solve the issue. In addition to that, we've got 196 signatures on the petition. We'll be happy to provide you with a copy of it. 100 of those are from Nash Elementary that object to this project because of the density of the vehicles that are already parked along the street. In addition to that, a traffic situation that's very complex, especially when we've got a school next door and there's constantly buses, et cetera, going along Samuels Avenue, which is a very, very narrow street. I appreciate your time today and ask your consideration to deny this.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Our next speaker is Steve Marquardt, followed by Jenny Stewart.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. I don't want to add or beat a dead horse here, but I think the issue here is plain. And I want to say this before we talk about the parking again, because it's been apparent to me through media outlets, social media, and things that we've seen, that I just want to make sure that the issue here is clear. We are not against new development. I probably lived in this development in Villa de Leon longer than any of my fellow residents that are here representing us today. And we've seen many, many developments come up, and we've always been in support of that as long as it's, and they've all followed the same criteria. Setbacks, they've all provided for ample parking, just like we have. We have an underground parking garage and a guest parking lot to supply more than adequate parking. The issue here is mainly the parking issue as it stands, and the safety of the residents, the citizens in the area, and primarily the children, because after all, we live in Nash Elementary's neighborhood. They don't live in ours. They were there first, and our goal and our desire is to make sure that the safety of the students and the citizens and the parents and everyone in that area to make sure that the safety is foremost. And I just do not believe that that's negotiable. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jenny Stewart, followed by Hunter Willing.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. I'm Jenny Stewart, also a resident of Villa de Leon. One of the arguments for not providing sufficient parking in this building that's being proposed next to us is that downtown residents don't have cars. And I just don't think that that's a reasonable argument. The closest grocery store to where we live is close to 2 miles away. I assume you could get there on a bus, but it would be an all-day adventure. And it's just not reasonable that people who live in the city of Fort Worth don't have cars. It's not New York City. We all have cars. And we need places to put those cars. And without providing enough sufficient parking, it's just not a reasonable development. So I urge the city to vote against this change of zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Our next speaker is Hunter Willing, followed by Virginia Corral.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Hunter Nyland Welling. I'm a parent to a 5th grader and aunt to a kindergartner at Charles Nash Elementary. And I'm here to speak about the concerns with the proposed zoning changes that would not provide adequate parking for every unit. The result would be an influx of street parking that this neighborhood just cannot handle. As a Charles Nash parent, I've actually already been in contact with Councilwoman Beck's office about my concerns about Samuels Avenue and the over-congestion of street parking. It's a tight 2-lane road, and we frequently have commuters try to get around the carpool lane by driving into oncoming traffic. Just last semester, while I was waiting in line, I was watching somebody do this for the umpteenth time. A whole line of cars followed them, and when they got to the intersection in front of the school, other cars had done it in the same way, causing total gridlock. It's not the first time I've seen that, but this time we heard sirens. And at the end of the block, 2 engines from fire station number 1, which is just a few blocks away from our school on Pecan Street, was attempting to respond to an emergency call on Samuels Avenue. To say this was distressing would be an understatement. With street parking at capacity, there's nowhere for cars to pull away, even if this gridlock situation hadn't happened. The only thing for people to do was to back up over the sidewalks into the grass. There were vehicles parked right up against people's ground floor balconies and windows. There were people backing up into the school parking lot while children are being dismissed and walking. For over 4 minutes, it was chaos to try to clear the road. That's the current state of things right now that we deal with every single day with our kids walking to and from school. So adding any sort of development project that does not provide adequate, planned off-street parking just is not viable for this neighborhood. We are not asking building to stop. We welcome any new developments and additions to the neighborhood. We simply ask that all plans and projects provide an adequate amount of off-street parking for their units and residents, as the current D-zoning does. So I thank you for your consideration and working with us to make our neighborhood a safe place for everybody who's already living, working, and learning there. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Virginia Corral, followed by Amelia Penjo. I'm going to ruin that, so she's going to fix it for me when she gets up here.
Good morning, everyone. I am a granny and a PTA member. I am the president of Nash Elementary. Shout out to Nash Elementary. Awesome, awesome. My concern really is safety. Bottom line, safety. I walk a pair of twins that are 2-year-old and an 8-year-old. The reason why I walk, we live in the neighborhood, and it's beautiful to walk there. With all this new construction, it has been unsafe for us to come in a vehicle, because I got to put 2 twins in a car seat, plus my 8-year-old. So it's easier for us to walk. When there's bad weather, we have to come in the vehicle. It is so congested. There is no space even to walk because it is so narrow. I have witnessed the buses having a hard time coming in and out. There's always people moving in and out. You have all these delivery companies. They have no respect for the children at all, because I am walking with these children side by side. It is unsafe. It's a hustle and bustle. Everybody's going to school and work at the same time, and they don't think there's a school there. We have to slow down. We have to take the kids into consideration. Now, let's see if there's an emergency and our first responders, how are they going to get to our schools in case of emergency for one of our students? All I'm thinking about is safety for our children. That's, we have to have a little bit of consideration towards them. Thank you. You all have a blessed morning.
Thank you, Virginia. Our next speaker is Amelia Penjoya. Anywhere close? Okay. You're being kind.
Good morning. My name is Amelia Pantoja.
There you go.
I'm a Charles Nash Elementary parent and PTA board member. Every day when I take my 1st and 4th grade sons to school, there's heavy traffic coming on both directions of the road, as well as a choke point where parents enter the school for drop-off. The traffic includes parents as well as tenants who are surrounding the apartment units who are just trying to make their way to work. As more people move into the neighborhood, traffic jams get worse. In my 6 years of Nash, not a day has gone by that we haven't seen impatient drivers drive on the wrong side of the road trying to pass traffic. This new apartment has no plan to create built-in parking spaces for all their 27 tenants, which is not following the example of the other apartments in the area. These 27 tenants represent 27 different households that could mean multiple cars per household. For 13 to 40 plus cars to find parking along the side of Samuels Avenue, they're going to start looking for parking in our neighborhood, around our schools, in our school. So that means that they'll be looking for parking in our bus zones and obviously inside of our school parking lot when school isn't in session. So if you happen to drive by the school after school hours, our parking lot and the bus zones are full of cars that are not employees or parents of Nash. This isn't a problem when school isn't in session. However, at our Meet the Teacher Night event on August 10th, parents came into the school drenched in sweat, upset that they couldn't find parking nearby. We saw mothers push strollers alongside their brothers and sisters between 2 to 3 blocks away from the school just for the opportunity to take their students to meet their teachers. As a parent and a PTA board member, I can assure you that Charles Nash Elementary creates numerous opportunities for our parents to engage with the school. A family not being able to attend our event due to parking limitations damages our ability to give students a full experience. At the end of the day, we want to give every opportunity to our students and families to get the most out of our school. Building an apartment complex that does not provide parking for all of their tenants stifles the parent and student experience. And it's for these reasons that the Nash community doesn't agree with the H zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. Councilmember Beck, that's the last of our speakers.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to have someone from planning, maybe Dana, you could get up and can you explain the difference in parking requirements between the D and the H zoning? And then, thank you.
Good morning. In H zoning, there are no real parking requirements, but in D zoning for multifamily, it's 1 space per bedroom.
Okay.
Plus, there's some additional space required for like open space within the confines of the building. Like, for example, if they have like an area for people to gather or something to that nature. So it's 1 space per bedroom.
Okay. And then the offsite, if it moves to the H zoning, that offsite requirement that we heard, I wrote it down.
Yeah, the auxiliary parking, they'll have to comply with the auxiliary parking. We'll have to look to see what zoning district that is, that's in, and then verify if a CUP is required and verify if they're within the 500 feet of their proposed building.
Even under H?
Oh, if it's H zoning?
Yeah.
Then we would just do a land use certificate of occupancy, which means we would look at their site plan, make sure they're complying with all the requirements, and then they would just get a land use certificate of occupancy.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we know if we have done a traffic study on Samuels Avenue ever or recently?
I can't answer that, but we can find out from our TPW department.
Okay, all right, thank you. I appreciate that. The site as it is right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it all, the current zoning of that site is D exclusively, or is it D and?
It's D, but they may have a little sliver of PDH, but for the majority of the site is D.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So this is a tough one because a lot of people have been put in a tough spot because of an error by the city. And none of us like to sit up here and look at you and tell you that we didn't get it right, but we didn't get it right. And so I appreciate the folks at Villa de Leon, and we talked about this when we met, for bringing it to our attention. I'm sure it certainly wasn't fun for us, and I know it wasn't fun for Brewer Hale, that process, but you did highlight something that we can do better. And so it's my commitment to you and to the District 9 residents that we will continue to do better so that we don't find ourselves in this situation. What we're doing is we're balancing the desires of what your community wants and being consistent and allowing for good business in the city. I mean, we're kind of in a predicament right now because I know Brewer Hale has started the process of construction based on that zoning that we granted back in 2021. I haven't been on there since 2001, thank God. I've heard the concerns of Villa de Leon. I know I've talked to Brewer Hale. All I've heard today is specific to parking. And let me be clear that I know that that is scary to y'all that are next door, but I have seen it in other areas of the district where that parking isn't required, and it seems to work. I'm less concerned about that than I am anything else. And I hear the folks at Nash Elementary as well, but I will say, I don't think that this project is going to take all of your on-street parking. If the on-street, the on-street parking on Samuels is pretty tough as it is now, and that's with complexes that provide double the amount of parking in some instances that they can. So I don't think it's a lack of parking within the complexes or within each development. I think it's probably more of a convenience thing. And so if it's just parking, I think we move forward. But what I would like to see, I know that you brought up some other concerns, but I didn't hear any of those today. And so are we still having the setback concerns? Are we still, okay. What I would like to do, I don't think we're going to come to an agreement on parking. I think that's going to be what it's going to be. But I do think that y'all at Villa de Leon have some legitimate questions and concerns that you'd like to address. I would like to get this taken care of one way or the other as soon as possible so that y'all can move forward with your development. What I would like to do is continue this case for 2 weeks to give all of us the opportunity to get in a room and have your questions answered. If you still want to do that, knowing that parking is not what's going to be contingent for my decision in this case, I'd be more than happy to do so. If not, then I think we move forward. What are your thoughts? Thank you. Mr. Starr, someone from the HOA.
I think we're fine with giving 2 weeks, but, the concern that we've got is this continued development of the project.
Sure.
And I understand that they want to continue to develop the project. I would too if I was invested in it.
Sure.
But I also understand that the more they spend money, the more they look to the city and say, well, we can't stop at this point. And so it's problematic. It just makes the issue more and more. One of the comments we heard at the zoning was the fact that they couldn't consider underground parking because it was cost prohibitive. I don't know how you can possibly think that the safety of children is cost prohibitive. That just makes no sense to me.
Sure.
So we're willing to do that, to sit down, but there needs to be some give and take on both sides. If that's not something they're willing to do, then I think we would be wasting time to do that.
And by give and take, or are you specific to?
We both have proposals of what we would find acceptable. We've got issues with setback. I mean, they're 8 inches from our building. If they were ever, God forbid, catch on fire, we're going to be on fire too.
Okay.
I mean, there's no space in there. Normally with you would have, I think, 5-foot setbacks, and it's just we're asking to have a safe environment. Sure. Like all the other buildings that have been built up and down Samuels Avenue since when our building was put in 2008. And we were intentional about buying another piece of land so we had additional parking for when guests and people came. And I do think that the parking along Samuels is very, very, very problematic.
So I agree with you about the parking on Samuels Avenue, and that's why, regardless of this particular case, I am going to ask staff to conduct a traffic study of Samuels so that we can make sure, not just a traffic study, but I'd like you to look at safe routes to school, and if there's any funding that we can do through that to improve the sidewalks so that we make it safer for those traveling up Samuels to the elementary school. That I think is important regardless of this zoning case. We have seen a lot of development on that road, and I think it's time that we examine that. I'm going to continue this for 2 weeks. Thank you for your second.
It's actually 3. September 12th is the next. Yeah.
Thank you for that. September 12th is when I'm going to continue it to. I look forward to meeting with all of y'all. I expect that we do that in good faith so that we can all be good neighbors. I know I've met with Brewer Hill multiple times. They want to be good neighbors. I think a lot of your questions and concerns can be addressed if we all just sit down and meet with each other. And my office is available to help navigate that process. And I've already given city staff the heads up on who I'd like to be there, so that way we can wrap it all up and hopefully ease some concerns or address some concerns.
I've got a motion and a second, Councilmember Beck. I think Councilmember Crane, you have, yeah, go ahead.
I know I'm standing in the middle of Councilwoman Beck's birthday Arby's right now, but I heard a comment earlier that someone said that was denied at zoning because of parking. Can you speak to exactly the technicality of why it was denied at zoning, Stephen? I don't think it was just based on one issue.
I'm trying to remember what exactly happened at zoning commission, so I really.
Maybe Melinda knows
that.
there,
Yeah,
and
Melinda.
she's stepping up, yeah.
So the zoning commission expanded to 11 members as of last week. There's a requirement that a certain number of votes be received in order for it to move forward to the council as an approval. There was a motion to approve. However, it only got 4 votes in favor of and 3 against. The full composition of 11 members was not there. So the zoning commission, per their rules of procedure, moves forward any vote on a motion to approve that fails for the lack of a required, and now it's 6 votes to approve, moves forward to the council as a recommendation of denial.
So it was a technicality, basically, as a reason this says recommended for denial.
That's correct. Otherwise,
Some
it's a
members weren't
motion-
present. There were maybe 2 that
Right, I
actually
mean-
voted against it.
Essentially what it, right, correct. It's a motion to approve that failed for the lack of getting the correct number of votes.
I just wanted to set that for the record straight, that it wasn't based on one issue that it was denied. It's more technicality of the way our zoning commission is set up, absence of some members, et cetera, new members coming on. I'll say this, I know that you've heard, Councilwoman Beck, you've done a great job. You had some great ideas about safe routes to school and finding some other funding and looking at that. Taylor, where are you? Yeah, Taylor, I just want to say, I will be supporting Councilwoman Beck's motion. I think that it's important that y'all have a conversation with the neighborhood, a continued conversation, and listen to some of those concerns and look at that. I understand that there's been besides this technicality, other issues with the permits and how they were approved, et cetera, as part of this process. That's the city's fault, and we'll make sure that we do everything to make sure people like you don't sit through this again. I don't think this is a question of I'll just, out of full disclosure, Shelby and I co-parented the kindergarten class at Overton Park, and I see other friends from over there in here as well, but I will be supporting you today so y'all can have this continued conversation and maybe come to a real win-win solution here for y'all. Thank you.
Councilmember Bivens.
Thank you, Mayor. I was very, very happy to support the councilwoman's motion to continue. And I don't know the last name, but I thought about Darren, because the last time we were here and you were representing an applicant in my district, you were wondering, how can she do that? Well, that's what we do. And we do it because we represent people. And people need to understand that the process doesn't always move as quickly as developers want it to, but our commitment is to the people who elected us to office. And so I support the notion that Councilmember Beck wants to make sure all the communication takes place. I don't care a lot about the outcome. I care about the process. And so for me, the process means engagement from all parties involved. And it's important that you know that this council hears you. This council hears both sides. Whatever that outcome is going to be, I trust the councilwoman to do her homework, which she does very, very well at every case. And I want just to make sure that you guys know that continuances come, but we're not going to ram anything through. We're going to make sure all the bases are touched. I'm a Rangers fan now, so.
Thank you, Gina. Councilmember Beck, we're all supporting your motion to continuance, and do work with Elizabeth on this one. I know it's hard. I was very pleased by those of you that came that live there, that this is not a noted development. You recognize this is, and we're in the fastest growing city in the country. This is our downtown district is going to continue to develop, and we want residential there. I see Andy Taft here from Down Fort Worth Inc. He would agree with that. So these parties really do need to work together. I would also ask to take a little bit of pressure off the city. The school district needs to be at this conversation about what their plans are with Nash Elementary School and being in this urban area. So we'll make sure we do our part to include them in these conversations, any future plans they have for Nash Elementary, to make sure families have access and students are safe walking to and from school. So thank you, Elizabeth. I've got a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion to continue passes to September 12th.
Next will be MNC 230706.
Yes. Anything? You're good?
Yeah, I just had a couple comments on it.
Oh, go ahead.
If that's okay.
Yes.
So in looking at this last night and this morning, obviously a lot of numbers in there. So you'll never hear me complain about the city ever receiving surplus funds from something that didn't directly come from the taxpayer, but I do just want to make sure I go on record saying that I understand that this is the taxpayer dollars, it is our dollars. So in looking at this more, I'm hoping that we can use something like this to further buy down our tax rate that we currently have on the board, and hopefully we can figure out a way to do that during these the next budget talks. So I just want to go on record saying that.
Thank you, Charlie. Councilmember Blaylock.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions about the process on this, if, David, you could answer. And just the first question is, were these projects considered as part of the 2024 budget?
I'll say that the funding for the reserve for the risk fund, yes, was an issue that we were dealing with the upcoming budget, as was the purchase for the land for the seminary. So we were looking at options of purchasing land for the seminary.
So does that free that money from the 2024 budget then?
No, we did not put the money in the 24 budget, knowing that the interest income was coming on the wind-up ordinance.
Okay. And I guess the other comment I'll have, how can we have better process around this so we have more discussion about what's going to be here in the future? I would really like to echo Councilman Lauersdorf's comment that I think the projects are great, but I would have liked to have had more discussion around it.
So I think that's a fair comment. The wind-up ordinance that we do each year comes in August or September. This year has that difference on the interest income. And so we would either have brought the interest income issue as part of the wind-up ordinance, or it would have been part of the year-end ordinance with the same, which is capital projects or other one-time purchases.
Okay. I would like to continue this discussion as we go through the next budget, too. Thank you.
To our friends at Colby Housing, the traditional way we have to think differently about this. And while there are still details to be worked out, what we hope to do is hold on to this property and really look forward into the future about even potentially creating a land trust for the city of Fort Worth for the first time. And so we'll be working closely with residents across the area. Every single district will be included in this conversation because candidly, it won't just be the city of Fort Worth. We also hope to involve the private sector and philanthropy around this opportunity. And there'll be additional conversation today at the HFC committee meeting as well. So more to come on that. And again, thank you to city staff for making this possible. I know it took a lot of heads together to make this happen. And Colby, thank you to you and your board and your president's patience in this project. We really do appreciate it. Any other discussion, council? If not, you can vote. Motion carries.
Next will be MNC 23-0689.
Member Blaylock, you may want to take this one first.
So today we have an economic development agreement that we're looking to enter in with McMaster Carr. Robert could...
I think it's actually going to be Michael Henning's going to come down and provide context
Perfect.
And as he's doing that, Alan, I might recognize, I know that Mike Berry and Bill Burton from Hillwood were here, as well as our guests, Mr. Pat McKenna and Joanne Callahan, both from Master McCarr. We're so pleased that you came and your due diligence here to get us to this moment. So thank you very much for attending a very eventful council meeting for you here in Texas. Go ahead, Michael, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Michael Hennig, Economic Development Manager. So McMaster-Carr has been working through a pretty intense competitive site selection process. It's been focused on identifying the location of their 6th regional headquarters and distribution facility. That regional headquarters would be focusing on the southwestern U.S. and would be in addition to their existing regional headquarters are located in Atlanta, Chicago, Cleveland, LA, and New Jersey. Now, maybe a helpful way of thinking about what McMaster-Carr is, they're basically the Amazon of the industrial sector, right? So what they really focus in on are online sales and delivery of industrial equipment and specialty hardware, primarily focused on ensuring uptime of operation. So if you have a major manufacturing operation that has a key piece of equipment go down, then you're effectively out of business until you're able to identify a location of where you're going to find that piece, that piece of equipment, purchase it, have it delivered, have it installed, and then get it back up and running. All in the meantime, that's lost productivity for the company. It's lost economic productivity for the community. So this is would be a strategic asset for Fort Worth to have here as part of its industrial ecosystem. I do want to quickly note that the company has a strong reputation for paying above industry standard wages and has exceptional benefits for its workers. The site that they're looking at is approximately 100 acres off of Litzy Road, and it's due east of Perot Field and I-35. And as part of the proposed agreement, the company would be agreeing to several commitments, including spending a minimum $360 million in overall capital investment. And within that, that would be $180 million toward real property improvements and $180 million minimum toward business personal property, so equipment and, in this case, taxable inventory. And if they do not meet those minimum requirements by the dates that are presented here, then they are not eligible to receive any incentives. The company would also be committing to a minimum 15% of hard and soft construction costs to go toward certified BEF firms. And if they fail to meet that requirement, then it results in an automatic 10% reduction in any incentives that they would have otherwise earned. McMaster-Carr would also be committing to job creation minimums of 150 full-time jobs by the end of their first operating year, and that would ramp up to be 250 full-time jobs by year 6. All of those jobs would be required to carry an average annual salary. Staff is recommending a 10-year economic development program agreement to provide annual grants that would be equal to up to 85% of the new incremental property taxes off of business personal property, and then also 50% of the city's 1% sales tax. Now, I just want to quickly highlight that the way that the state of Texas handles online sales is by making the point of distribution the point at which those sales are taxable, which means that 100% of all sales within the state of Texas from this facility would be subject to Fort Worth sales tax. And then, of course, you can see here the breakout of how the company would earn the proposed incentive. So just to summarize, you can see along the left side of the screen are the key deal points of the proposed agreement. Staff is recommending that the overall value of the incentives be capped at $18 million for the lifetime of the agreement, and that an additional cap of $2 million apply to any annual grant. So if the company does overperform or if value is delivered earlier, then the city would be benefiting from that. This amounts to a 20-to-1 private to public investment ratio, and staff is projecting that the project would generate a net of just under $39 million of new taxes to the city, which effectively is $2 on net for every $1 that would be invested in these incentives. And with that, the payback period would amount to just under 5 years for the overall agreement that's being proposed. And again, I do want to recognize, once again, the representatives of the company who are here in the audience and welcome them to Fort Worth. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Council, any questions?
No questions from me. I do want to thank Patrick and Joanna for being here today. I want to welcome McMaster Carr to Fort Worth. We look forward to having you as a great partner. Think staff has done an incredible job, and I think we're in a great place. I want a motion to approve.
We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Thanks, Michael.
Next will be MNC 23-0690.
Councilmember Beck, turn to you on this one.
I'm going to move to approve on this, but I'm going to ask staff to go and re-examine the dollar amount that we require developers to pay in lieu of the affordable housing. Right now, per our NEZ agreement, it's 200 and some change, and I don't think that's sufficient to buy out our affordable housing requirement with the cost of construction and what we're going to need in the future. So if you could bring that proposal back to us in the future, I'd appreciate that.
Councilmember Beck has a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Mayor, I believe that concludes all of the agenda items for today's meeting.
Meeting adjourned.
And Councilmember Beck,